Belgioioso Cheese is a family-owned and operated company specializing in artisan Italian cheesemaking. Using only natural ingredients and fresh local Wisconsin milk, master cheesemakers handcraft the full line of exceptional cheeses, guided by a commitment to quality and a respect for tradition. Ask your distributor about Belgioioso's award-winning fresh mozzarella, burrata, ricotta, mascarpone, American Grana, and Parmesan. At Belgioioso, every cheese is a specialty.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Extra Serving, a podcast from Nation's Restaurant News. I am Editor-in-Chief Sam Oches, joined once again by my esteemed colleague, Executive Editor Alicia Kelso. Alicia, hello.
Hello.
Alicia, lots to talk about today, and I think to kick things off, you are back from Florida, and that's going to inform our entire conversation because you were in Florida for the ICR Conference. This is the first big event of the year for us, right? This is our ICR, lots of incredible restaurant clients, lots of presentations from those clients on the state of their business, where they're going in the year ahead. Lots of important people who are at that. I unfortunately could not make it because of some leadership meetings we had in very cold Chicago. Very jealous of you to be in Orlando. But we have got to start by talking about Saucy, because while you were in Florida, you had a chance to visit Saucy, which is, of course, the new sister concept from KFC. Oh, there it is. For those who are only listening, she is holding the menu.
A paper menu. Yeah, I did. I got to visit Saucy. I wasn't going to miss it. We've talked about Saucy, so there's no need to rehash it. But from my experience, it was a good experience. It was good food. It reminded me of a Raising Cane's. Very simple menu of basically just tenders and crinkle cut fries, and there's 2 sandwich options and coleslaw and toasted rolls. So very simple menu, of course, with the KFC signature flavor on those tendies. But obviously, the big differentiator here is the sauces. And there are 11 of them, a nod to KFC's 11 herbs and spices, making up its original recipe. And I tried every single one of them, Sam.
Was it a sauce bar? Is that like a do your own kind of choose your own?
It wasn't. You just order on a kiosk.
Okay.
And you can get, it's 40. So here's what intrigued me about it. It's 49 cents per sauce. And then you can get a 4-sauce flight for $180. But there was someone there, sort of guiding me through the restaurant. He told me that their sweet spot is with the upselling, because they lean heavily into those sauces as that differentiator, as that its brand position is. It's called Saucy.
You don't know that you're getting sauces at Saucy.
Right.
You got a problem.
But the point is to encourage folks to get all the sauces, try all the sauces, mix and match the sauces. He told me there are 4,000 combination opportunities with all the sauces. I was doing it all. I was trying all the sauces, mixing the sauces, and it made the experience a lot more fun, a lot more interesting. I don't know what's going to become of this, but I'm glad I checked it out. I will say, you didn't ask, but my favorite was jalapeno pesto ranch. And smoky bacon ranch. And then I also like the spicy mango chutney sauce. So I think there's going to be more experimentation here.
Ranch. You can't go wrong with any of those things. No. You know that I am here for ranch dressing, by the way. And ranch is having a moment. Holy smokes.
No kidding.
So many restaurants doing ranch activations, which I can only assume is A, because it's amazing and delicious and wonderful. Makes everybody's lives much, much better. But B, maybe it's just a winter condiment. This is an easy January thing to... I don't know. You want to cozy up inside and just like chug ranch dressing? I don't know why ranch is everywhere right now, but everything you just described at Saucy sounds delicious. And I think that makes sense. I mean, it's the same thing with beverages. Beverages and sauces, 2 things that have been really taking off as trends recently. And one of the big reasons why is this idea of do it yourself, mix and match, customize, choose your own adventure. You can't do that with, a lot of other things, on menus. You can't do that with your types of meats necessarily, because there's a real cost affiliated with that. But the fact that beverages and sauces are low cost to the restaurant, and they can give you that opportunity to play around a little bit. I mean, hey, I think I'm cynical about Saucy. You know this. We've talked about that here. But I think the sauce element here is a pretty smart decision.
Well, and the chicken tenders, the simple menu. Like I said, it's like a Raising Cane's sort of on steroids with the sauce aspect. And obviously that is found success. They're also marketing it really smartly. They're open just down the street from UCF. So they have a partnership with the athletic department over there. I talked to some of the customers and they were telling me they come every week. And it was a Tuesday evening when I visited. It was packed.
Tell me about the branding, because I'm a little skeptical of the sort of 70s hippie vibe.
Are you anti-pink?
No. Just to be clear, it's more like the font of Saucy kind of throws me out. What's it like inside?
It is very much what you would expect. It's very pink and red inside. It's very visual. I thought it was colorful, vibrant. You've got 11 sauces in front of you of all different colors. I thought it matched really, really well. Our colleague Ron was rightful to say that it reminded him of the Beatles' Yellow Submarine font. Yep. Sort of whimsical. And like I mentioned, vibrant to match those sauces. And I don't want to be remiss here. There are also 11 beverage options too. So they're leaning in on beverages as well.
Okay. Yep. And hey, like I said, beverages, sauces, a lot of opportunity to play around there. And especially in a category where some of the major players like Chick-fil-A and Raising Cane's are known for one sauce. Of course, they have more than one sauce available, but it's like the Chick-fil-A sauce, the Raising Cane sauce. And I'm weeping inside thinking about the possibility of eating Chick-fil-A sauce sometime soon, because this is one of my favorite things in the world. But you've got to have a lot of options here. People want to discover new things, and sauces are a good way to do that. Okay, let's get to it. Like I said, you were in Florida alongside our colleague Joanna Fantozzi at the ICR conference, and there is much to talk about that was announced there and discussed there. I think we should probably start with Papa John's. Papa John's, a new CEO, Todd Penegor, announced some ways in which they plan to turn things around. Papa John's has not had a great couple of quarters in a row here. They are looking to turn things around. Todd said at ICR that past leadership, perhaps some of the moves made by past leadership weren't maybe the right moves. And he said that Papa John's plans to really turn things around. I kind of keyed in on three things that Joanna wrote about in her story. One of those being local store marketing, one of them being technology investments, and one of them being menu innovation. So, Alicia, from what you can tell from this news from Todd, what do you make of Papa John's direction into the future?
I thought it was really interesting that he gave this presentation about the quote missteps that his, perhaps his predecessor made, while his predecessor was also at the same conference.
And we'll get to that, by the way.
Yes, we'll get to that. But back up real quick. So ICR, because of the timing of it, a lot of companies pre-released fourth quarter results. And many, if not most of them, I'm going to go ahead and say most of them, reported, a lot of sales progress so far in Q4, a lot of positive sales after a really, really challenging 2024. And so I think that there was a little bit of buoyancy going into ICR, seeing some of the progress that has been made among some of these companies. Of course, this is before we're going to, understand the true scope of how the weather, the winter storm or the Los Angeles fires are impacting anything. But I'll take buoyancy after that really challenging year that we had last year. Papa John's was not necessarily one of them. So we have positive preliminary sales trends at most of the companies that presented. Papa John's reported same-store sales were still down by 4%, driven by lower traffic and ticket. So Penegor obviously has his work cut out for him here. Pizza's just been weird anyway. I mean, it obviously has come down from a significant pandemic high, but I think Papa John's has had some market share erosion, particularly ceded to its biggest competitor, in Domino's, and Pizza Hut has made a little bit more traction too. When Penegor presented, he basically said the shift to national marketing, which was announced at this time last year. So his predecessor, Rob Lynch, outlined this plan at ICR last year, and it was a very holistic plan, to pull those royalty fees away from local marketing and put them, explicitly toward national marketing. And Penegor came out and said that was a big miss. So they're gonna adjust back, basically, and they want their franchisees to be, sort of the mayor, the face of their communities in which they operate. We've written about this, plenty of times in the past 2 years, how there does seem to be a shift in marketing dollars back to local marketing. Red Robin comes to mind. They've had a lot of success. They actually put a training program in place last year to train their operators on how to do and how to execute local marketing, because it has, such an effective use of those marketing dollars. Texas Roadhouse is a case study in local marketing. And so I think this will be really interesting to watch when Papa John's does make this full swing back to local marketing, how that's going to build traction, if at all. As you mentioned, they're also, of course, leaning in more in technology. They brought Kevin Vasconi on board recently, and from my opinion, from my vantage point, he's a digital genius. He's done amazing work at Domino's and Wendys. So they've got to remove some of this friction. Papa John's, from my vantage point, can be kind of a frustrating ordering process. Yes. With their app, with their call center. So I think there's a lot of low hanging fruit here, and I'll be curious to see how any of it, comes to fruition once they put these plans in place.
Yeah, I think that the local store marketing thing, just to drill in on that a little bit, to your point, I hear this all the time now in conversations with folks, how important that is. I will point out my recent interview on Takeaway with Jennifer Schuler and Hillary Fry of Handel's Homemade Ice Cream. Not only are they just an absolute blast to talk to, and I highly recommend
no question, yes.
meet them when you can. But they, here they are at this 80-year-old ice cream concept that is really positioned as the community ice cream shop. There's 150 of them around the country, but they don't want to be that, hey, there's 150 of us. They want to be, to their point, they kept emphasizing customers should say, this is my Handel's. This is my ice cream shop. And I think that's applicable to everybody, every chain, even the big chains like Wendy's, right? Even Papa John's. If you say, well, this is the one I go to because I know that person behind the counter, or I know the GM, or they've given me good hospitality before, I think there's real value to that. Not to mention, you and I both having children in elementary school, our schools are having deals all the time with partnerships with restaurants, and, they send coupons home and stuff like that. But, that's impactful, right? When you have relationships with local organizations like schools and businesses, there is something that builds a relationship there. So yes, you can cast a wide net with national marketing, fine. But is that as impactful as connecting at that personal relationship building level? I just don't think so. So I think Todd's onto something pretty good here, and I'll be interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, no question. I agree.
Okay, so speaking of his predecessor, Shake Shack also presented at ICR, of course, now led by CEO Rob Lynch. And he was previously CEO at Papa John's, and he was previous to that at Arby's. So Rob Lynch at Shake Shack has announced that Shake Shack's path forward is going to be quadrupling their number of locations from over 300 now to someday 1,500. And he wants to do that through smaller boxes, more drive-thrus, and continuing to lean into this idea as being the underdog in the burger category by not committing so much to national marketing, by the way. He actually even mentioned national marketing for Shake Shack too. So, this is interesting. First off, because Shake Shack just closed several locations recently, including the one in my neighborhood, which had a drive-thru, not a traditional drive-thru, but a mobile order ahead drive-thru. And I started to wonder, has Shake Shack peaked? Have they found their saturation point? And perhaps could people not want to be paying for a better burger when they have a cheaper burger right down the street? But maybe they see something else because they have some pretty lofty goals here. Do you think this is achievable and smart?
I think lofty is an understatement. You mentioned tripling their footprint. When Shake Shack went public about 10 years ago now, their target was to get to 450 locations. So that's sort of the context of where we were and where we are now. And, he outlined how they were going to get there. As you mentioned, they weren't necessarily a suburban chain 10 years ago. They didn't have any drive-thrus, certainly. So, there are some glimpses of, positivity in terms of how they can get there. Of course, you can get there with smaller boxes and more real estate options and more market availability in expanding into suburbs. 1,500. I don't think he put a time frame on this, which is good, because that's obviously, like you said, lofty. But that will put Shake Shack alongside burger concepts like Five Guys and Hardee's, just to add some of that context. There are currently about 330 locations domestically, so there's a lot of work to do here. But Shake Shack is riding 15 consecutive quarters of same-store sales growth. I don't think it's at its peak just because it closed those 9 units last year. I think we've talked about this before. Closing isn't necessarily a bad thing. Markets change, demographics in those markets change. Fail fast, we like to say, if a unit is not hitting, unit economic goals or profitability goals, cut it loose and move on and get the system, cull the system to get it healthier. We've seen this from several concepts, including like Denny's and Applebee's, trying to aspire to do just that so that they move back toward net unit growth. So with that with those 15 consecutive quarters of same store growth, I think that Shake Shack probably sits in a sweet spot here. Burgers are always going to be popular. Fast casual category obviously is, riding high right now. And so I think it'll be interesting. I do want to note, though, it won't be easy. There's still a lot of growing competitors out there. I think of Culver's and Freddy's just off the bat, both of which are in my neighborhood, and both are which, are always packed, and they're both growing. So, put Five Guys aside and Smashburger aside, sort of the traditional fast casual burger players, you've got some up and comers coming as well. So we will obviously follow this, but who knows?
Yeah, for sure. But I'm glad you mentioned Five Guys, because when you and I first started covering this industry in 2009, you probably remember what was going on then with Five Guys, which was, holy cow, these guys are opening 200 a year. And they were just absolutely on a tear. And, they capitalized on the moment, because in that time, better burgers were the hottest thing going. And the attention to better burgers, the demand for better burgers, was driving the success of concepts like Five Guys into the stratosphere. And that made a lot of sense. So that they then got to 1,500 locations. Well, they got to, 1,000 locations. And then that growth really tapered off. Five Guys has been humming along, I think they've been fine, but we don't really talk about them much because that momentum that growth trajectory did not continue. And the reason why I bring all this up is because I don't think that same moment is happening now for burgers. I think it's happening for chicken. So it makes sense when we hear about Dave's Hot Chicken opening 200 locations possibly, because it's like, yeah, chicken is insane right now. Saucy, we were just talking about, there's obviously so much demand that everybody wants to get in the chicken game. Burgers, yes, always will be popular, but burgers are so saturated. This is, I think, where my doubt comes in, which is to say, Shake Shack is growing and good for them, and they should continue to grow. They will likely continue to grow, and they should have aspirations for growth. But are they going to grow to Five Guys levels? I just don't know, because there's already Five Guys. There's already Smashburger. There's already, to your point, all these other better burger concepts. So, I'm skeptical again, but you know what? Maybe 2025, we talked about cautious optimism, and that cautious optimism is becoming aggressive plans for the future. Great. It's good to see growth goals in this industry after the year we went through, but I would just sort of temper expectations on.
Sure. And your job is to be skeptical, by the way.
I know. I have to rein you in, because you always say how Pollyannish.
Well, I am, but like you mentioned, we've been covering it for the industry for 15 years. We've seen these big aspirations fizzle more often than not, unfortunately. So I'll just leave it there. And I think we're starting to see that a little bit now too, with some of these even newer brands that are coming on the market that are already closing. And it's just a part of the industry's ebb and flow.
And moral of the story is, don't ever bite off more than you can chew, right? Because I understand why these companies set these lofty goals. I understand some of this is let's get some stakeholder excitement. Let's infuse a bit of, excitement into the company. I get that. But there is always us and others out there holding you accountable. And your stakeholders are going to hold you accountable too. You remember these things that you say you're going to open 500 locations. Well, I hope you open 500 locations, because if you don't, we're all going to question, the sanity of that decision. Anyway, one other company I want to touch on before we move into the extra serving of this episode, Portillos. Portillos did get a lot of excitement. Speaking of exciting their stakeholders, they got a nice little bump after they presented at ICR, because they also talked about their plans going forward and how they hope to achieve growth. They too, like Shake Shack, talked about smaller boxes, which is interesting because am I correct in saying they just opened a gigantic one in Texas, or was that a smaller one?
That was their smaller.
That was a smaller one.
Yes.
Still gigantic. Smaller for Portillos in context is still pretty big for a lot of other restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me more about Portillo's plan.
Yeah, Portillo's got a double-digit bump on their stock price after their presentation. So obviously people liked what they heard. I thought it was a really intriguing presentation as well. There's a lot of moving parts in, how this company is moving forward. Again, after a challenging 2024, they had positive preliminary results. But one of the things that I think is going to push this momentum is that smaller prototype. So I had an interview with their chief financial officer, Michelle Hook. And she said this new prototype costs, quote, at least $1 million less in build out costs than its traditional location. Now, Portillo's traditional locations are like 10,000 square feet. They're huge, right? And this shrinks it down to like, I think just over 6,000. They're not stopping there. They expect to launch a 2.0 version of this in 2026, which is going to cut another $300,000 to $500,000 out of that build out cost. So when you find that kind of money to trim from your build out costs, you have an easier time, obviously finding real estate and parcels. You have a easier time growing a little bit more quickly and getting a faster return on those boxes. So I think that was the biggest, the most intriguing piece of that report. Portillo's is also launching its new loyalty program by the end of Q1, and that was really intriguing. They're doing it through a mobile wallet, versus making customers go to the app store, download another app on their phone, go to their app every time they go, to the restaurant to redeem their points. And I thought that was really intriguing. It does seem to remove some of the friction. I know my mobile phone is just really abundantly crowded of all the restaurant loyalty programs that I both use and just use for coverage purposes. So most people are now familiar with how to use a mobile wallet. They're going to use that as well to deepen their one-on-one and personalization messaging, their value offers, all that stuff, all that stuff directly to Perks members. So I think that will be intriguing. I think the sexiest headline from Portillo's, though, was that it's rolling out kiosks, as we know, but the sexy headline from their presentation is they're testing computer vision at the drive-thru. So Portillo's has meteoric average unit volumes. They're over $9 million. So they're out there with like Chick-fil-A. But they lost a minute of speed at the drive-thru in the past year or so, and they're trying to claw that back now because throughput obviously is very important when you have volumes that high. So they are testing computer vision at the drive-thru, where if a car is in the drive-thru for too long, I think it's 4 minutes, then it flashes red to the drive-thru manager and nudges them, because it gives them that visibility to move things along, and that seems like a could be a win to support
like Nothing like panic to get people to whip themselves into action, right?
As Michelle Hook said, her team members want to do well, and they're giving them the tools to do so. So I'm going to spin it. I'm going to spin it the way she does. I think it sounds like an effective tool, but I would be a little anxious.
Drive-thru, by the way, I think drive-thru technology has got to be one of your number one priorities. If you're a drive-thru brand and you're not paying attention to the technology, I just yesterday visited Wendys flagship here in Columbus in preparing for a big project that I'll speak more on here in a few weeks. and went through the drive-thru, and it was one of their new AI drive-thrus, and a very seamless experience. Now, I was only getting a couple of Frosties, so it wasn't exactly super groundbreaking. I guess I should put it more to the test. But the point is that like this stuff is going to become normal, and hopefully, presumably, the cost on it will come down too. So if you're not one of these major brands that can afford those investments, you should still be looking into how AI and automated tech and any other tech tools can really help you make the drive-thru more efficient. Because if you have a drive-thru, chances are you're going to have about 70% of your business go through the outdoor lane. And if you don't keep that thing humming, listen, Portillos, nobody is Portillos or Chick-fil-A. They do drive-thru business like nobody does drive-thru business. But nevertheless, you're going to have those, those day parts, that rush, lunch rush, dinner rush, when you've got to keep things humming along, and new technology in the drive-thru is going to be what's going to get you there. Okay, this is the point in Extra Serving where we bring on our colleague to talk further about what's going on in the industry. Now, this colleague I'm bringing on did not join you at ICR. I would have brought on Joanna, but you know what? She decided to stick around at Orlando and go to Disney World. So she's going to be on next week and share her full account of not only ICR, but also Disney, because I am very curious to know what she did at Disney. So instead, we're going to bring on a different colleague, Mr. Ron Ruggles, our senior editor. Ron, welcome to Extra Serving.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Okay, Ron, we were just talking about Portillos, and I know you have some familiarity with Portillos because you recently visited their new prototype. So Portillos, Ron, you did not go to ICR as Alicia and Joanna did, but the Portillos reported at ICR that they were going to have more of an investment in these prototypes that you got a firsthand look at, that restaurant that they opened near you in Dallas. First off, just tell me more about, do you believe Portillo's investing more in that prototype that's driven by things like kiosks and technology in the drive-thru and a smaller footprint? Does that seem like the Portillos of the future that could work for them?
I think it is. It's also cheaper for them to build, as well as it has a fairly significant to-go component.
For sure. Ron, do you see lines around that Portillos at all hours of the day?
The one originally in Frisco had lines, but the one that just opened in Grapevine as a smaller unit is a little less line heavy. When I was there midday.
Because their average unit volumes are something like 9 million. So when I think about numbers that high, my assumption is, and I see this at any Chick-fil-A in your city, and you see this, but there's no soft day part. There is just constant movement around the building. And I just am so impressed that they figure out how to keep those lines moving and keep the cash registers humming.
One thing Portillo's is doing in its new units is creating a seamless drive-through experience, much like Chick-fil-A, which I don't know if they are doing line busting like Chick-fil-A, but it's certainly very smooth.
For sure. Yeah, you have to do that because with the insane amount of business, they're going up to like 2 and 3 drive-through lanes at Portillo's too. I think they have some locations that they're testing 3 drive-throughs, right?
Well, I don't know if they're testing 3, but they definitely have 2. And they're very busy.
For sure. Okay, Ron, I wanted to bring you on specifically to talk about a brand that's based in your neck of the woods, and that's Twin Peaks. So Twin Peaks, I believe, was also at ICR to announce that they have finally set their IPO date for January 30th. Twin Peaks, owned by Fat Brands, they were purchased by Fat Brands a few years ago. Going further back, they were founded by what is now FB Society. Randy DeWitt and his group, they founded Twin Peaks several years ago. It was bought by Fat Brands a few years back, I believe 2021, and now they're going to spin off and go public, filing an IPO. First thing I want to ask, Ron, with your familiarity of Twin Peaks, why do you think this brand seems to be doing well, and what's setting them up for success? I should say that their recent quarter was a little soft. I think they had negative sales in the recent quarter. But in general, Twin Peaks seems to be building a lot of momentum. Why do you think that is?
Sexism.
No. Well, moving right along. Ron?
I think...
I'm going to say cold beer.
Well, they do have 29-degree cold beer. But they also, like Hooters, they cast their wait staff rather than hiring their wait staff, which is allows them to subvert having any male waiters. and they're all dressed in buffalo plaid and rather buxom. So I think that is the main attraction, is the flirty wait staff.
Alicia, I'm starting to think that Ron hasn't visited Twin Peaks like you and I have. Alicia and I paid a visit to Twin Peaks a few months back, and the food and the beverage is quite good.
They have excellent food. They really do. Alex, their chef, is very good, and their training is actually very good.
So I spoke with Joe Hummel recently, CEO for Takeaway, on this past week's episode. What I think is so fascinating about Twin Peaks and other sports bar categories that are coming into the category now. Another one I spoke to recently was Tom's Watch Bar. I think there is a huge opportunity in sports bars to come in with a better experience, however you define that, and however the customer wants to define that. And that is better food, better beverage, better ambiance, better service. And again, different sports bars providing that in different ways. But to me, the sports bar category got so tired. It just got really redundant. A lot of the same concepts out there with the jerseys on the wall and the standard American food. And something like Twin Peaks with their food and beverage offering, I just believe that something like that, and whatever you think about the service style, there is a demand for that. And I believe Joe Hummel told me that they have up to 85 TVs per location, something like 60 to 85 TVs per location. And he said they want every seat to have, I believe, 3 to 5 views of a TV. So different events going on. And that might seem overwhelming to some people. That's a little overwhelming to me in my ADD. But I do believe that experience perhaps could be driving some of the success, so long as you provide a little bit more of an elevated experience. Okay, let's talk about IPOs, Ron. Tell me about we didn't see any IPOs in 2024 unless you count Pinstripes going public via SPAC at the beginning of last year, but I'm not going to really count that one. I think it's not the traditional IPO. But this year, here we are right out of the gates. We already got one coming up. Do you think this year is going to be a big year for IPOs?
I think public money is a little more willing to be out there. I noticed the market is up 400 today. I do think there is perhaps an appetite for IPOs, but most of these purchases, mergers and acquisitions have been in the smaller category. I think Twin Peaks has 115 units. Portillos, which went public in 21, has 90 some units now. I think you're seeing that level of IPO, but I think private equity money is a little more loose.
Yep. Alicia, what do you think about that? Do you think this is going to be a big IPO?
No, I don't think it's going to be big. I think it will be more active than last year. I think it'll be, we've been talking about Panera trying to position itself for an IPO for a while now, but I think they're going through so many changes. I don't think that might be put on hold. I'll be interested to see if Inspire is part of this conversation so we can have a big one. And, there are a couple of others that have been rumored, but I agree with Ron. I think PE is going to be way more active, but I do think there's an appetite. That said, I think we talk about the optimism from ICR, and I can report on that. I talked to, I think, 1.5 million people, but there's still some cautiousness. There's still a lot of uncertainty out there. There were a lot of companies that were being quiet, indicating that uncertainty and unwillingness to maybe commit to full guidance. I think that uncertainty revolves around the incoming administration's policies like mass deportation and tariffs that could, dramatically impact our industry. So there's still a little bit of a wait and see. The conditions in the market are getting a little bit better, but I still think there's some wait and see because of that uncertainty.
Yep. All right. Well, we will find out. There is a lot of optimism, but you're right. There is also a lot of uncertainty. So I think here in the next couple of months, we will be learning more about where people's confidences truly lie. All right, before I let you go, of course, as always, like to do a lightning round. This week's lightning round, I want to know, when you want that great bar experience, where are you going? You define it however you want, whether it's watching a game, whether it's having a cozy sit up at the bar, have a beverage, whatever that is to you. When you want that experience, where do you go? Ron, I'll start with you.
I go to a local indie, Fish City Grill, because I generally eat pescatarian or flexitarian, and usually go for fish rather than beef. But that's me.
Okay. Alicia, where do you go to? Do you belly up to the bar somewhere?
I am so old. I don't.
I didn't ask if you do it all the time. I did when you did.
There is a local bar that my wife and I like to go to. Nobody's ever in there. The jukebox is incredible and cheap, and there's always some kind of sporting something on TV, and so that's perfect. I'm at the age where I want to go to a bar, but I don't want anybody else to be there, and I need a jukebox.
Yeah, cheap music.
cheap beer, cheap music. Well, good beer and cheap music. How's that?
I am here for that notion of not wanting anybody to be there. I like a good, quiet, cozy bar. I don't want it to be obnoxious. This ain't college, folks. And I don't want a sticky floor, dry beer, anything like that. My go-to, I'll go with a local spot too. I'm going to say Bob's Bar out of Clintonville. I don't know if that was here when you were here, Alicia.
It was. Yep.
Oh man, it checks a lot of boxes for me. It's super divey, but they've got this incredible beer selection, incredible bourbon selection. Like you, Alicia, I do not get out nearly enough, and so I don't go there very often. But when I have an opportunity to go have a drink at a bar with a friend, that is where I like to go.
Sam, we've come a long way since our Maction days.
Yeah, we can't do it like we used to.
Athens and Bowling Green, Ohio, the two biggest towns with the highest concentration of bars.
Yep, and they would be so disappointed in us these days. Alicia, just doesn't work like it used to. Okay, as always, Alicia, Ron, thank you for joining Extra Serving. We will talk to you all. No, we have an interview. We're going to roll right into an interview, actually. This week, we are very excited to host the Senior Director of Culinary Development for California Pizza Kitchen. It is in conversation with Brett Thorne. His name is Paul Sibilski. Hopefully I said that right. So stick around for that interview, and we will talk to you all next week.
I'm glad you're here, and you've been at California Pizza Kitchen for quite a while, right?
Yeah, I've been at CPK for 15 years, and I actually worked with CPK for a few years before that, even with the previous job. So,
so you were like in manufacturing with somebody?
Yeah, I was with Kraft Foods for 10 years developing retail products, and one of my projects was CPK frozen pizza.
So you must have worked with Brian Sullivan for a very...
I worked with Brian. I spoke with Brian this morning, as a matter of fact. He is one of my dearest friends. I worked with Rick and Larry, our founders. So yeah, that was, they're all so much fun.
So the pizza landscape is different now from when you started, I think.
Yeah.
You would you're the pizza man.
Yeah, it has. And, CPK has been through a lot. We're almost 40 years old. We're actually going to be 40 this year in a few months. But yeah, a lot has changed. In the beginning, we were known for these really rustic, creative pizzas. And then in the late 90s, got a little stagnant and kind of started looking like everybody else. And one of the high points of my career was being able to come to CPK and change the way we make pizzas. So I got to do that with Brian, and that was such an awesome opportunity for a chef to go to a pizza concept and change the way they make pizzas.
So how did you change it?
Our dough originally was very sweet. We had honey in it. And there was quite a bit of honey, and it was very pastry-like, to be honest with you. It browned like a pastry in the oven. And it was, originally it worked, and then it was kind of going in a different direction. Everybody else was going in a different direction. So we focused a lot on our fresh ingredients. We focused a lot on cooking in the back of the house. And then we are using a dough press, and we're pressing our dough into a perfect circle. We're putting pepperoni in perfect little rows. And we're basically doing what everybody else was doing. And we were moving away from where we started. So we got the opportunity to change all that and get rid of the machine, and we started hand stretching dough and creating a real rustic product. And at that time, we changed our dough recipe, and we also changed the way we topped our pizzas. So that was super exciting for me.
So you topped it in a more sort of apparently haphazard way, so it It looked
More rustic. Yeah. I mean, we were doing a lot of prep. Like a good example is our wild mushroom pizza. We're bringing in fresh mushrooms. We're cutting them up. We're sauteing them. We're roasting them in the pizza oven. We are making a mushroom pesto that was pretty heavy, pretty dense, and putting it all on the pizza. A lot of work. And what we transitioned to was to take these beautiful mushrooms and shave them very thin and just coat the pizza with these mushrooms. And those mushrooms roasted on the pizza, and that flavor stayed on that crust, and it just kind of became a lighter, brighter product that really showcased our beautiful produce that we're bringing in.
And it was probably more mushroomy because you got all of the essence of mushroom dripping down into the pizza.
It's exactly right. Initially I remember having a conversation with Brian about it. He was like, "Oh, it's going to be too wet. It's never going to work. All the liquid's going to come out of the mushrooms, right?" And that actually became part of the sauce of the pizza. And so we kind of took that learning and we did it with all of our pizzas. So we shave everything very thin when it goes on a pizza, and it all cooks in our pizza oven. One thing I can't stand is when you go to a pizza restaurant and they have all these beautiful ingredients and then they cover the top with cheese and everything steams. I want all that stuff to roast and caramelize and get crispy. So that's definitely what we did.
So for you guys, it's important to have the cheese on first and then the other toppings on top.
Yeah.
That can be exposed to the direct heat of the oven.
And you're looking at all that beautiful produce and all those wonderful ingredients, and the pepperoni is caramelizing and crisping up, and that's what I want to see on a pizza.
Me too. That totally makes sense. Do you only top the pizza once, or do you have multiple, like?
Oh my gosh, it's at California Pizza Kitchen, we are known for our garnishes. So we have a new Mediterranean pizza coming out at the end of this month, and it's a lighter, brighter one. And it's literally like it's grilled zucchini, it's red onion, Kalamata olives, a ton of Parmesan, and California olive oil with garlic, and that gets baked. And when it comes out, we're garnishing it with feta cheese, tzatziki sauce, wild Greek oregano. So we do a lot of garnishing after the pizzas come out of the oven. That's kind of a signature of CPK. We have a pizza that we call the California Club, and that gets arugula, chopped lettuce, tomatoes, avocado, all after the pizza comes out of the oven. So garnish is a big part for us. And our take and bakes too. When you get a take and bake, you bake the pizza and we put all the garnishes separate. So when you're at home, you get to add all those toppings after, and you kind of feel like a chef yourself.
Is that a big part of your business now?
To take and bake? I wish it was bigger, because I truly believe it is probably one of the best pizzas you can have at home. Honestly, it's literally a hand stretched crust that's par baked for 60 seconds, and then we top it with the fresh ingredients when a guest orders it, and then we give all those great garnishes to you on the side. So we're always trying to promote it more. I think once people try it, they're hooked.
When CPK has a big menu, it has a lot of non-pizza stuff also.
Oh, we're known for our salads. We're known for our pastas. We've got some awesome main plates and appetizers. So yeah, we just had a limited time offer over the holidays. We're doing a short rib ragu with pappardelle pasta, and that was twice as successful as we planned. Unfortunately, yeah, we sold out of that product and had to struggle to get it back in. But we're known for our salads. We're known for our pastas, piccata, all of that. So great.
And you still have kung pao spaghetti, right?
Of course we do. Of course we do. Yeah.
I love your kung pao spaghetti.
Yeah, thank you.
You have lovely Mediterranean side dishes and all sorts of great stuff.
Yeah, we want to have kind of something for everybody. We don't have a huge menu. Our menu's around 65 items. But we do want to offer healthier, fresh options, and we want to offer some rich options, like, our garlic cream pasta, our West Coast burger. Man, that is a hamburger. A pizza restaurant is doing a hamburger, so we really wanted to make sure we did it well. So we've got those comforting, craveable items as well as the healthy ones too.
So what's new? What have you been rolling out lately?
Like I said, we had this great LTO period over the holidays where we added the short rib ragu. That came off the menu, but it is coming back because it's been so popular. We had a burnt-end barbecue pizza that we introduced for Pizza Month last year that we're going to be bringing back. We've got these beautiful burnt-end pieces, brisket pieces on the pizza, and it's just amazing, amazing. We've got some new light offerings that we're going to roll out at the end of the month. I mentioned the Mediterranean pizza. We've got a big Greek salad. We're doing an over-the-top Greek salad with slices of feta on the top that you kind of eat through as you eat the salad with wild Greek oregano and olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. And then we're doing a salmon in parchment. The French call it papillote. I'm sure you're familiar. We're doing that in our pizza oven with salmon and some baby broccolini, slow roasted tomatoes, Kalamata olives, capers, lemon juice, extra virgin olive oil. Very light, very healthy, that our guests are going to kind of open up the parchment paper at tableside and finish it with some lemon juice and fresh basil. So we're thinking a little bit healthy here in the beginning of 2025. Everybody's kind of had a fun holiday, I'm sure, and maybe overindulged, or we're thinking a little bit lighter.
But you're rolling them out at the end of January, not early on when people are trying to keep their resolutions, and then they work into
We're rolling them out on the 21st, so they're coming here in a couple weeks. So, yeah.
And the salmon, that should be around for Lent, right?
Yep.
So that's good. Well,
We also have a cedar plank salmon that we cook in our pizza oven. So anything we can cook in our pizza oven, I love, because that oven is really the heart of our restaurant. So, yeah.
So about how much of your menu mix is pizza and how much is not?
It's pretty even. It's pretty even salads, pastas, pizzas. So it's kind of a third.
So it's not really, I mean, the name is California Pizza Kitchen, but it's a lot more than that.
It's definitely more than that. We want everybody to know that we've got more than just pizza for sure. But
like a burger.
Our pizzas are something that we're definitely proud of.
So you have those items coming out. What are your customers looking for? Are they looking for lighter items like a salmon?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think there's a range of things. I think everybody kind of has their favorite from the menu. I mean, when you talk to someone about CPK, there's always something that they love. And, oh, the barbecue chicken pizza is amazing. Oh, like you said, the Kung Pao pasta. Everybody kind of signals out one thing or a couple of things. Tostada pizza. People were talking about tostada pizza so much we had to bring it back because we took it off the menu for a little bit there. So, it's a range, like I said, some more craveable, more decadent, some more lighter options. So
that has to be a challenge because, as you said, you have a pretty lean menu. You have a number of stars that your customers are devoted to. So how do you find that balance of innovation? You got to innovate, you got to create news, you got to provide a Tostada pizza, but then you also, have to manage everything operationally and keep people from not understanding who you are and all that stuff. So I guess that's a big part of your job, huh?
It's a lot, and we're always talking about it. Listen, innovation is always going to be a key for us. That's what makes my job so fun, is we just continue to innovate, continue to bring in new items. We're always cooking. We're always in the kitchen. So that's never going to stop. But, you mentioned there are some great recipes. There are some great dishes that we've done in the past that, our guests talk about. So it's constantly, some new items that we're working on, and also what are our guests asking for, So we try and balance it out. We try and plan ahead as much as possible. We try and add when it's appropriate, when and what is appropriate. So we do quite a bit of concept testing to see what's resonating. And then we'll also do restaurant testing if necessary. But, our 40th is coming up this year. And we're going to be bringing back 4 items from our past that, throughout the 4 decades, we've kind of really picked one for each decade. And it covers the categories of the menu. So we're going to do a kind of a 40th anniversary menu insert. So we're excited about that.
Are you allowed to say what they are yet?
I think so. I could give you some sneak peeks. We're gonna do tortilla spring rolls. Those were something that I really miss. We have a pizza that was on one of our original menus. It was a rosemary roasted tomato pizza, and we've got a great salad we're bringing, and we have a chicken Milanese, which is another item that I miss so much. So that's super CPK, and it fits the brand so much.
And that's just like breaded and fried chicken with marinara sauce and Parmesan or cheese, mozzarella cheese.
We do ours with quecca, which is kind of like an Italian kind of salsa with Roma tomatoes, basil, and garlic. We have extra virgin olive oil, arugula, some beautiful shaved Parmesan. It's one of those dishes that's kind of, you feel it's a little bit bad because you've got this pan-fried chicken, but you've got these light elements on top with arugula and the olive oil and the bright quecca and the shaved Parmesan. But, it's funny, you mentioned marinara. We didn't serve it with marinara in the past, but when we tasted it again, we thought, hey, we could offer a slight twist. So we've got a beautiful tomato basil sauce that our guests can order with it, or if they want, or they can have it without. So.
Well, certainly the retro thing is big. A lot of people are interested in looking at the past. I don't know if that's because they don't want to look to the future, but, certainly consumers want to try things that were on the menu a long time ago.
Yeah, and I mean, some of them are so fun and so craveable, and they were so innovative at the time that, I don't ever want to lose those recipes. It's just a matter of which ones do we bring back? Because like I said, everybody's got a favorite, and everybody wants something else. So. Which ones do we bring back? So,
and it's a reminder that as creative as the culinary world is now, there was also a lot of creativity 40 years ago.
Holy cow. Yeah. We always talk about that barbecue chicken pizza in 1985 in Beverly Hills, and everybody's looking at it like, what the heck is this? I got to go try that, and our founders, Rick and Larry, were extremely creative, and they were always pushing the envelope. And what I remember about Larry Flax, he would say, hey, if it works on a pizza, it might work on a salad, and it might work on a pasta, So we were always kind of trying the flavor profile across the menu categories, and that barbecue chicken pasta never took off, but the salad did, the barbecue chopped salad did. So.
Well, it's a reminder that cross-utilization, which everyone's into now, was always the right idea.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're out of time, but I thank you for taking the time to visit with me and hang out and update me and our audience about what's going on at CPK.
Belgioioso Cheese is a family-owned and operated company specializing in artisan Italian cheesemaking. Using only natural ingredients and fresh local Wisconsin milk, master cheesemakers handcraft the full line of exceptional cheeses, guided by a commitment to quality and a respect for tradition. Ask your distributor about Belgioioso's award-winning fresh mozzarella, burrata, ricotta, mascarpone, American Grana, and Parmesan. At Belgioioso, every cheese is a specialty.